so things are good, so now I'm good. And then we
until they're not good.
Until they're not good. That's the same as using, things are good until they're not.
That's right.
And that space between good and not good can be very slim. All right, you are on the 14th Step. It's a podcast about addiction and recovery. My name is Mark. I'm a professional counselor and a recovering addict.
My name is Skip, and I'm a recovery coach and a recovering addicte.
That's right.
I think that's Italian.
Addicte.
Addicte. A drug addicte.
That's like Mario.
I'm addicted to oregano.
We're going to talk today about a topic that came up in a meeting last week that I think is worth talking about. It's about the kind of effort that we put into recovery.
Yeah, it was. I think it was just for today. Maybe May the 4th. May the 4th be with you, or Cinco de Mayo, one of those two.
It was one of them.
It was talking about, is recovery, do we put the same amount of energy into our recovery as the energy that we put into staying and getting our drugs and staying addicted and abusing drugs?
I don't always. I have before, especially when I first got clean. I was on fire for recovery. I wanted to shout it from the mountaintops because it was new.
Mm-hmm.
And
working.
Yeah, it was working. Well, it was really the first time in my adult life, probably the first time in a good 15 years, that I felt excited about being clean and sober. Mm-hmm. That was a foreign concept to me. Mm-hmm. And so I was going to meetings. I was doing step work. I was reading meditations every morning. I was really taking all of the suggested action to stay clean.
You were drinking out of a fire hose. And just taking it all in.
I was taking it all in.
So what stuck out of all that stuff after a year?
Well, it's changed.
Yeah.
It's changed so much.
I didn't talk about this at the... I'm sorry. I cut you
go
off.
ahead. Go.
I didn't really talk that much about it at the meeting, but it parallels when people first get excited about God and going to church and come and maybe talking about religion. It's all based on your personality type. It really is. Is when you get into something new, you can really get on. We call it on fire. You can really get on fire about it, but then burn out really quickly.
Yeah, they call that the pink cloud that people get when they first get into recovery, because it's exciting for people, and that's good. It's good for people to get excited about it. But I think being on fire for something, being on a pink cloud, a lot of times it's also feeding our ego in some way. And I think that's whenever it can become disappointing, what your expectations are.
Well, that's a really good point, because burning really hot doesn't sustain itself for a long time.
Right.
But let me ask you this. If you have a very addictive personality, can you get addicted to recovery? Does that make sense? Addicted to the going to 50 meetings a week and talking to, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I do. It's almost like I don't know if I want to use the word addicted, because
obsessed.
Yes, obsessed. And I think we were talking about that in the meeting. And the saying goes is like, if you put half the work into your recovery as you did into your addiction, then you're going to get good results out of recovery.
Which I agree with.
I agree with it too.
Yep.
And we were talking about like the difference between being passionate about recovery and talking about recovery and seeking people out to talk about that versus the obsessive hamster wheel that is finding drugs, taking drugs, staying high.
Yep.
I mean, and when I was using, if I had to be at work at 8 a.m. and it was midnight, and I didn't have any pills to take the next day, like I'm going to be on the phone, I'm going to be driving around, I'll drive out of town, whatever it takes. I would do whatever it takes to get high.
Yes.
Because that's what I need to function.
That's right.
I think if we hold on to our recovery, some of that spirit, I need recovery to function today.
Yes.
And recovery really is kind of my lifeblood in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
And if I dedicate myself to it, then I can keep my head above the water. Absolutely.
And I kind of took it as like, if you're in a situation and you get, a trigger, so to say, or you feel something and you in that little thing pops in your head and you think about drugs you're using or something, if you have that energy, that's where you meet that with that energy.
Right. And you have
you have a toolbox to pull out something and meet that energy head on and greater, and it goes away.
And you have a fellowship.
That's it. Because we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
When we say life's not a sprint, and that's what the burnout, being on fire is to me, it's not recovery's not a sprint, but it's also not a marathon. It's a relay race. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
It's getting other people involved, and that's why you have meetings and you have sponsors, you have recovery coaches, you have counselors, you have people that can share the burden with you.
I think that to answer your question, I think, yes, people can get obsessive about meetings and recovery and all that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't discourage that. And I've worked with people who they get so into recovery. I encourage that if I see it. I don't because it's a much better obsession than dope.
Oh.
And so when they do burn out, which is inevitable because life happens.
Yep.
At least they're going to have a crowd around them to support them through that.
100%. 100%. And they're better off than they were before.
Way better.
Yes. Yep.
Recovery is something that I really try to put at the forefront of my mind. I think it looks different for everyone.
Yep.
It has changed for me. I used to go to a lot of meetings. 3 or 4 meetings a week, sometimes more. I was working really close with my sponsor. I was doing step work. It looks a little bit different now, but the kind of opportunities that have been afforded to me in recovery have given me an avenue to do recovery in different kind of ways, like this podcast or the work that we do.
Yep. Ditto.
And so that is really meaningful to me, to be able to build something and that flows through my recovery. That really is really meaningful to me. And I think
that's more important than any quick fix that any
stupid
drug can give you.
Definitely. I think the danger when we get clean is to get complacent.
Yep.
And not think about it.
That's right.
And think, well, now now I've got a car again and I've got a job and now I'm living back with my wife and so things are good. So now I'm good. And then
until they're not good.
Until they're not good. That's the same as using, things are good until they're not.
That's right.
And that space between good and not good can be very slim and without warning.
Yes, it is. So, do you put the same energy into staying clean as you did in finding ways and means to get more drugs?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Yeah. What have you done for your recovery today? Leave a comment below and let us know.
Yeah, thank you.